back in 2002, Resident Evil finally hit the big screens with its first live-action adaptation, and I actually didn't mind it. But the rest after that were not my cup of tea. And I thought, yes, we're finally getting a new remake. I like the cast, I don't mind the director, the trailer might not have been the best thing in the world, but it looked like they were getting everything down, and really much this could be the best Resident Evil movie yet. Sadly, it's not. This movie's almost a complete failure, and in fact, I actually might prefer the original series than to this one. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I've been quite interested in this one because, again, I love the Resident Evil franchise so much, especially when it comes down to the games. And that's where I want to make sure to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What's your favorite Resident Evil movie? What's your thought on this movie? And in general, do you guys like the games? And what is your favorite game? Let's discuss it all down below, as making sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because if you also love talking movies, you are in the right place, because I love talking movies on a daily basis, and I'm so lucky to have you all here. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, once the booming home of the pharmaceutical giant Umbrella Corporation, the company's exodus left the city as a wasteland, a dying town with great evil brewing below the surface. When that evil is unleashed, a group of survivors must work together to uncover the truth behind Umbrella and make it through the night. So like I mentioned, I am a pretty big Resident Evil fan. I've played almost every single one of the games, and while I don't play them every single one of the years, because I do get kind of scared very easily, especially from some of the earlier games, I am still one of the big fans of this franchise, and I've always been clamoring that this franchise could work on the big screen if done right. And from the title of this video and from my intro, like I mentioned, I didn't find this film to really much work at all. I found it to be actually a complete failure, and as the film went on, I actually disliked it more and more. But that isn't as far to say as that there isn't bad things about this. And while I don't have that many great things to say about it, I do want to get my pros out of the way. And one of the things I do also want to establish is that if you are someone who made this movie or put their heart and soul into this film, see some of the creation and ideas that really much could have furthered out the development and really made this into being one of the best video game adaptations of all time. But it was very much held back by a select number of things that we will talk about. But I do want to talk about my pros once again, and one of the things that I must mention is the production design. You can heavily tell that the people involved in this movie did take their time to go back and look at the games and really much recreate multiple moments, and I mean from scene to scene, from room to room, from even paintings on the wall to even some of the traps, even down to the keys, to the puzzles, all sorts of things like that. There are amazing nods to this movie that had my jaw on the floor. I was like, this is awesome to see, all recreated on the big screen. And again, bringing that tension. When we go to the Spencer mansion, you still feel that tension, that uneasy feeling walking around each corridor and seeing all the dark and dampness and the creaks and hearing these weird sounds that you don't know what is. When you go down the prison, they established and created the prison in such an amazing way that brought me back to when I had just replayed the Resident Evil 2 remake. He did that so well that, again, we'll talk about my cons, but it frustrated me because I was like, you did all this, but why couldn't you do this? The other pro I really do have for this movie is actually the actors in here. While I didn't love how a lot of the actors are actually written, I do actually think a lot of them embody these roles. Kea as Claire Redfield, I actually thought was one of the big standouts of this entire movie. Robbie Amell as Chris Redfield was great. Kamen as Jill Valentine was fantastic. Neil McDonald, I think, might have been probably like the big show stealer of it as William Burke. That actually probably was the most spot-on casting of the entire film. Tom Hooper as Albert Wesker, and even Avon Jogi as Leon S. Kennedy. All of them, again, fill these roles in a good way. Now, not in the best way as the way they were written, but they did the best that they could with the material given to here. Also, again, I did love, again, the attention to detail to certain characters, the zombies, the way that the zombies acted, and of course you see in the trailer and a lot of the announcements of Lisa Taylor, which I actually wish they didn't show in any of the marketing because she's barely in the movie, but again, it was like a recreation from the game in such a splendid but horrifying way. Of course, even the liquors looked cool. I liked all the designs of everything, even if a lot of the CGI was a miss. Of course, let's segue over to my cons now, because the thing that I've been kind of dabbling around is the script, and the script is terrible. It tries to compare and bring together two different stories from the video games, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. And I think in a way, maybe it could have worked. But I really do think these are two established stories that probably should have just been completely separate movies. Because one of the things is this movie just feels boggled down with so many different things and trying to give fan service to be fan service. But that's not what makes a good movie. What makes a good movie is when you can intertwine that into the story but bring the world to life. And I would have rather just had a recreation of the Spencer Mansion and have those characters involved, or even go into Resident Evil 2 and just have the prison and have Mr. X walking around. That's the stuff that I would have preferred to see, as a more slower, methodical Resident Evil movie that does have that fun action. But what it does is it takes Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, jams it together, and then has like the action vibes of Resident Evil 6, which is arguably the worst Resident Evil game ever made. Having elements like that don't help at all. And the other thing that doesn't help when it comes down to a script is the way that you write certain characters. Now, if you've never been a fan of Resident Evil, maybe you actually won't mind how some of these characters are written. I'm coming from as a critic and as well as someone who just adores the Resident Evil franchise, but some of these characters were written so badly that they did not even feel like the characters from the games. One in particular is Tom Hooper's Albert Wesker. Now, like I mentioned, I actually didn't mind how Hooper played Wesker, but I absolutely hated how they had Wesker act in this movie. And I say that because I think Wesker is one of the coolest video game villains of all time, even when it comes down to his origin stories, and especially some of the stuff that they bring about in Resident Evil. But bringing him in this movie and showing how he is, there's times where he actually says sorry. I don't know about you guys, I've never heard Albert Wesker say sorry in his entire life. When I see a villain like that is purely evil and so selfish, actually have those moments, I sat there just going, yeah, this is not the movie that I wanted. A couple characters like that were Leon S. Kennedy, another character that is probably my favorite Resident Evil character of all time, is just a bumbling idiot in this movie. And again, that does not go to the performances. I am not attacking the actors in here. This is purely a script problem, and it bugged the hell out of me throughout this entire movie. Only 3 characters I actually thought they got perfectly right was William Burke, Chris Redfield, and a little bit of Claire. Jill Valentine's just really not in it that much, and when she is, she's kind of just there to kill ass and kill zombies. They're all characters that deserve that time and love to it. And again, I get it's only one movie, but why are we cramming so many characters in the one movie? This isn't Avengers Endgame, guys, come on! So damn frustrating to watch this movie and feel all of that frustration watching characters that I absolutely adore just not be the characters that I want, like say my dad to watch this movie who's really never played a Resident Evil game, and I want him to experience the world that I absolutely adore. That's why I think video game adaptations can work, and I would love to see more of them actually work, because there are just people who don't want to play video games and they want to watch movies and they want to experience it that way, and that's cool, but I want them to have the best limelight and the best way to experience it. I'm hoping The Last of Us shows will be great. I'm hoping Uncharted will be great, so people who have never experienced the Uncharted video games can experience that movie in a whole new way. That's why I think video game movies are so important, to bring these stories to life that maybe people who just aren't in the video games, or even people who can't play video games, can at least enjoy a movie like this and actually understand why us fans are so big passionate of this franchise. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, while it might have all the fun Easter eggs and nostalgia and all the cool little production designs, because they did their detail with that. I mean, seriously, if you have played 1 or 2 recently, you are going to be amazed with what they created. But that's where it gets so frustrating, is because they did all that attention to detail, but they couldn't give me a goddamn good script? Come on. I haven't even talked about the action in here. They pull away so many times from a lot of the blood and the gore, and this is a rated R movie. Show it! Show it going on. Show all the grotesque stuff, and you can definitely tell that this movie had a limited budget. It was only made for like $45 million, but it feels way less than that. In fact, this feels like an experimental fan film that wanted to combine so many different things, but they had such a shoestring budget. But the fact that it was 45 actually baffles me, because this movie feels like 25. Movies that were on a less budget that had better CGI than this film, because that's another one of the issues with this movie as well, is that while it has some cool creature designs, especially the liquor, which is barely in the damn movie, and I wish they didn't show it in the trailer, and they showed a lot in this trailer that I actually think gave away too much. But when you look at the liquor, I'm like, that's an awesome design. Then it's not really in it. Lisa Trevor's she's barely in the movie as well. Oh, what's this cool G-Virus tyrant thing coming out? Oh, that is a CGI globby mess from like the PlayStation 2 era days. And those were just my thoughts. this is why Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is almost a complete failure. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Johannes Roberts as a director and a writer, but I still gave him credit where credit could be done because I do think they had a good establishing narrative to this and what it could have been great. But when you have a really bad script and you really just don't show everything that possibly could be displayed here, it's like they crammed way too much into one movie. And God, don't even get me started about the damn ending. Because by the damn ending, I was ready to leave. But then I knew there was an end credit scene. I watched the end credit scene. That was even more baffling to me because I knew that was going to happen. But I just sat there and I'm like, really? At the game and just went, oh, we could recreate all the mansion. We could recreate this scene. We could recreate this creature. But they didn't really look at what the soul of Resident Evil is. And that is the characters, the story, and the mythology. All of that's kind of just left out. And it's not really there, which makes this entire film feel lifeless. I didn't expect this going in. I expected maybe just a fun time, but this is almost a complete failure. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is one of my biggest disappointments of the entire year, and as well as probably one of my least favorite films. The attention to detail of each location was so spot on, but God, the characters, they weren't written right. The script, again, not a big thing to me, and the CGI was kind of a letdown. Even the tension wasn't great. I liked a lot of the build-up, and I would have liked that slower, more methodical pacing that Resident Evil 2 has inside of it, but they just went and mixed in Resident Evil 6, which again, I absolutely hate all that action stuff, and this just should have been better. Fans of the video games will have fun picking out the Easter eggs and production design, but I think when you look back finally, you're going to be like, yeah, these aren't the characters that I love and fell in love with. And I think even fans who have never experienced Resident Evil before will probably go into this and think, oh yeah, that was fun, and then completely forget about it. So with all that said, I'm going to give Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City a D. I'd never expected this to be one of my least favorite films of the year, but it really is. And the more and more I think about it, the less I like it. So guys, let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on Welcome to Raccoon City. Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? Do you think I'm overreacting? Let's discuss it all down below in the comment section, because that is the most important part about this entire thing, is talking film. I'm all about film appreciation, but sometimes when I see a movie like this that disappointed me, we gotta call it out for what it is, and it is the failure that I didn't think it would be. But guys, thank you once again for watching this. I can't wait to read your guys' comments. Hit that like and subscribe button. Head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films early, and of course the big thing to you guys, and until next time, stay classy.